Thank you for coming to the SwimSwam and Surge Strength webinar. I'm privileged to have Golden Mel Stewart here.
Do I get to take over now?
Yes, you can take over.
All right. I appreciate everybody being here at the outset. So Mel Stewart, two-time Olympic gold medalist, CEO and co-founder of SwimSwam. My relationship with Chris Ritter goes back many, many years. And I trust him because of our, the Olympic peers that we have relationships with and the transformation he made in their lives, along with Olympic coaches that we hold near and dear to us. But also because I don't have expertise in this area, and at SwimSwam specifically, I rely on somebody with expertise, and I'd like to go to the best people. So, and also we come from the same stomping grounds,
Yes,
which
we do.
Which is a wonderful thing. So let's see here. Today we're going to get inside. You're going to get an inside view, and you're going to learn about the advantages of being Surge Strength Dryland certified. And we're going to explain to you why and how having the SSDC credentials behind your name matters. But before we dig in, let's ask an obvious question. Chris, what are the biggest mistakes that coaches make in dryland training?
No, that's a great question. And I feel like they're all over the place a lot, but the process of actually putting this certification together, I'm putting it together in the mind of helping the coach as the end goal. And so I actually really had to think about this a lot. And I think there are kind of three main problems. I mean, there are countless others that we could do, but I think it comes down to kind of three main things. And we're going to go through that a little bit here. I'm going to share my screen. Should be able to see that now. Everybody see that all right? Awesome. Cool. So I think the first problem, Mel, when coaches are thinking about dryland is obviously, how do I make it swimming specific, right? Like, we're not just doing dryland to become Olympic weightlifters or, because we just want our athletes to get huge. We want them to be faster in the water and to actually enjoy it. And as I was going through it and creating it, this analogy came to mind about swimmers and ballerinas, and how if you can think about this, I feel like you can get a better lens of swimming specific. So flashback to when I was still doing strength training, personal training in person. I had a client up at the top, Kevin, and he was a world-class ballerina dancer. Like, he traveled the world. He was an amazing athlete. And you see some of the positions that he would routinely get in, like just in between workouts. Like, I can't even imagine getting into some of these. And if you look down below, we have some world-class swimmers in catch positions. And I think those are equally funky. If you look at, the angle of attack here, and especially the better swimmers have these very unique angles. And I think coaches go wrong in thinking, okay, I want my swimmers to look like this, so let's just hold this all day. Let's just force them into this. And in the same way, when Kevin came to me, he wasn't competing anymore or traveling the world, but his body was really broken down. And you can understand it, getting in these crazy angles all the time. And so what we did is we focused on the same type of program I would for a swimmer who has to also get in extreme angles. And that's getting more athletic, getting stronger, balancing all the movements. And what happened was his body started feeling much better. The aches and pains went away. His low back pain went away. And guess what? He was able to do these movements even more because we were helping him just become a better athlete overall. We were unleashing his athleticism. And so when it comes to dryland, yes, of course, we want to be quote unquote swimming specific in that the end goal is to get the swimmers faster, but that doesn't mean each exercise needs to mimic or look like swimming. And I think that's where coaches get really confused really fast. So if there's anything you can think of the two main goals, and I say it all the time if you hear me talk about dryland, is how can we get athletes stronger and more athletic? And if we're going down that path, that's going to end up yielding results. And some of the ways where coaches, if they aren't going down that path, this is what happens. You end up having poor technique. You try to move too much, too fast in terms of your programming, and you get a lot of imbalances because you're trying to chase these swimming specific exercises. And this becomes one of the most frustrating cycles for any coach or swimmer. I've experienced it both as a swimmer and as a coach, But you get swimmers in the injury cycle where they get injured, they stop swimming, they go to the heel, they rehab, and they start swimming. And guess what? They injure it again. And most of the time it's what? Shoulders, maybe back, maybe knees, but most of the time it's the shoulder. And that joint is so mobile, you really need to address that specifically so your swimmers can train hard and fast and consistently. And so if you approach Dryland from the perspective of we want to make our athletes stronger and more athletic, this actually helps stop this injury cycle that can just go on for years sometimes. Bottom line is, if you can help your swimmers just stay in the water longer, and that's all your Dryland is doing, that's going to be fantastic. If you can get a swimmer to swim 3, 4, 5, 6 seasons in a row with no break because of injury, that's going to help propel them better than any, little exercise I can give you here today. So kind of going back to the big picture, correct technique, progressive overload, a balanced program. And it really comes back to having swimmers be strong and athletic. And that comes to, if we have better athletes, we now can have faster swimmers. And so this is one of the problems that I really was solving with the SSDC curriculum, is to know your top priorities, to know how to keep athletes healthy and injury free, and to actually then see the results in the water. If you can keep them in the water longer, you can do whatever training you want, whether you're race pace or high volume or anywhere in between. It doesn't matter. If your kids aren't in the water, they're not going to be faster. So that's point number one. I don't know, Mel, Jason, do you guys have any feedback or questions on that before we move to the next one?
I wish I knew this before, because I think, and here's the thing, it's like anybody who's committed their life to this sport, we go through this period of time where if we do get injured, it's like you have muscle atrophy in your shoulders, and then it feels like the tendons are all stretched out, and your shoulders are they float, and it's hard to get it back in line. As a swimmer, dealt with this, and then post swimming career, had to manage this.
Yeah. No, awesome. Jason, any feedback from people in chats or anything? Are we good to go to the next one?
We're good to go.
Cool. Awesome. So the second problem, if coaches feel like, okay, I have the swimming specific thing down, is you usually have a bunch of different athletes standing in front of you. And I haven't said this before, but actually so far, all the stuff we've gone through is, I just pulled it directly from the Surge Strength Dryland certification. So these are the same slides, lessons that you're going to get if you get access to this. And we'll talk about that later. But one of the lessons is how to meet the athlete at their level. And so I don't know if you're coaching age groupers, senior swimmers, college, master swimmers. Frankly, it doesn't matter in terms of where you're at, but it does matter how you look at them, and to know, okay, what categories do I need to be looking at, or how do I assess this athlete? But there's a difference between age and ability. So you may have a master swimmer that is going to do Dryland for the first time, and maybe they're 60 years old, and you may have a college swimmer who has been doing Dryland consistently for 8 years. Guess what? That college swimmer is actually older than the master swimmer, because when we look at age in Dryland, we're actually looking at training age most of the time, and not just biological or chronological age. If you're dealing with age group swimmers, the age could be chronological or biological. In that, you may have 2 14-year-old boys, one has hit puberty, one has not. That's very different how you approach Dryland. So don't just think age. Yes, it is just a number. Thank you, Dara Torres. But there's lots of different ways to look at that as you're going. Is it the ability? Is it their training history? Is it chronological age? Is it biological age? Also, the other thing, questions I get a lot all the time, and I'll give you guys the quick answer here, is when should kids start lifting? When should they actually do strength training? And it comes down to, can you answer these 2 questions? Can the athletes answer you yes in both of these? And you as a coach know that it's true. Are they willing to listen to instruction? And do they have a desire to participate in it? If both those questions are not yes, you don't need to. It's just doing body weight at that point. Now, there is inherently, actually, you're kind of behind the 8 ball if you're doing Dryland just body weight, because external resistance allows you to actually scale it even more effectively. So I want to actually get kids lifting as soon as possible, not because I want them to get huge, but it gives me more options. So if you think about if a kid can't do a push-up, it's very much all or nothing. But if they're going to use dumbbells and I can get them on their back and doing a 1-arm chest press, when I can use 5, 10, 15, 20, or 25 pounds, and now you can scale it to their ability, and it helps them feel better too. They can actually accomplish it versus, okay, if you're just doing body weights and they can't do push-ups, if you go through the certification, we'll help you understand how to do that, but there are just less options. So this is really what the two questions come down to when I'm thinking, should a swimmer actually use external resistance and do an actual strength training? Are they willing to listen, and do they want to do it? And until it's yes to both those, you shouldn't bother. There's scaling that goes into Dryland, whether it's age groupers, senior swimmers, college, masters. But at the same time, everybody's goal is the same generally. Everybody's biology is the same. So we go through actually quite a few lessons. So even if you don't have a background in exercise science, we go through the biology, the metabolism, the energy levels, the system, so that you can understand how does that actually play into strength training. A lot of you may have taken other courses that talk about that in the water, but how does that relate to on land? And that should affect how you're doing training on land as well. If you're talking about an 8-year-old master swimmer and an 8-year-old swimmer, they still should have the same body goals. And what I mean by that is these are the 3 things you want to look for in creating your swimmer in a dryland program: having a high strength to body weight mass ratio, having a strong core, and being able to be mobile, especially in a place like the shoulder. So it doesn't matter if you're just enjoying and maybe you go to 1 meet a year with your master's buddies, or if you're trying to get a kid to the Olympics. These are the same 3 goals every swimmer should have if they're wanting to enjoy the sport. And lastly, what we teach you in the certification, and we go into great depth into this, is about assessments, testing. How do you categorize not only athletes, but exercises? So we're going to show you how do you take athletes through a number of different assessments, both mobility-wise and performance-wise. Then you can categorize them and then turn around and we then categorize exercises for you. So it's almost just a plug and play. You could say, okay, this athlete's here, they're at this level. This athlete's here, they're at that level. So it takes the guesswork out of it a lot. So then you can actually create, here's the cool thing, especially if you're a club coach, college coach, you can create custom dryland programming for your group on an individual basis. And think about it, you already do this in the water. You have one lane doing one interval, you have another lane doing another. Sometimes they have different subsets, but coaches get overwhelmed when they think, how do I do that on dryland? And we break that down very simply for you. So every athlete can have a custom plan essentially, but you can still run it as a group dryland and everybody's still enjoying it, having the team camaraderie, but you can know that you can work with your lowest level athlete at the same time you're working with your highest level athlete, and both feel like they're in their sweet spot in getting better. So that's problem number 2, is working with different athletes. And I think that's a big thing for coaches to overcome. Mel, Jason, you guys have any comments, feedback before I go to the next one?
Are you going to take us beat by beat through the curriculum?
Yes. Yeah, I got one more problem to go, and then we'll
go through the next problem. And I just had a question for Jason,
cool.
But go ahead.
Cool. So now here's the last thing I think. So, okay, if coaches think, all right, I understand the swimming specific thing, Chris, I understand what our goals are. Maybe I understand dealing with different athletes, but how in the world do I put all of this together? It just seems like so many moving parts. And so we actually walk you through building a dryland program. So we start with goals. We start with, here are the phases that you should go through in dryland. And we make it as simple as possible, but it's still very effective. And you have to remember too, your swimmers, they're in the water, so they don't have unlimited energy. So actually in an ideal setting, you can't just say in a vacuum, we're going to do this dryland program and not account for what you're doing in the water. So we help you in the certification figure out which should we do first, dryland or swimming? And there are answers to both. And it depends on what you're doing. It depends on where you are in the season. And if you're stuck with just one or the other, that's okay. We help you get the most out of it. But we also give you a ton of templates too, from how do you do your season plan for dryland, how do you do your weekly plan, and then break it down to here's actually what you're doing this day on dryland. And to help you go through that, we've created checklists. So you have a season plan checklist. Here's the things you need to know when you're sitting down and creating your dryland program. Here's the things you need to know for your weekly plan. And we encourage you to do that because it can connect the season plan with the actual session plan. And a lot of people miss that step. So they just write their season plan. That's great. And then they're going on a day-by-day basis and wondering why it's so hard. Is because they're not doing the weekly plan in between, and that helps connect those two. But we give you a ton of examples from college, age group, senior, even master level swimmers. and we break it down so you see real life examples, but then we also are give you the templates to basically plug and play and give you a system and a grid to then put, all right, this is what I'm going to do for Dryland. So it doesn't seem overwhelming. All right, how do I put the season plan together for Dryland? Mel's shaking his head. I'm glad he's tracking here.
No, it just takes me back to we were in the infancy of Dryland training when I was, moving from high school into college, but that was the one change, the one difference that I can point to that like put me over the edge, and it really got kicked up another notch with David Marsh, which is a very close mutual friend. There's something that I said to you a long time ago, and not a long time ago, it feels like it was forever ago. It's like, I don't know what's going to happen with these kids, but they're swimming so fast coming out of COVID. And I can't put my head around it. And you explained it to me and I went, yeah, what did you tell me?
I was not worried at all. I thought, how much more rest are kids going to get? Number one, especially the growing ones. And then two, when the shutdown first happened, like a week into it, we did this webinar series. And the first thing I said is, here's a couple mobility exercises you can do with your shoulders. And if you just did them 3 times a week, 4 times a week, and now we're 6 months after that fact, like if you had achy shoulders and you weren't in the water, and yeah, it sucks if you guys aren't in the water. Like I feel for you if you're still not in the water, but use it to your advantage. You're never going to get a break this long in the rest of your career probably. And if you would have taken our advice in April with your kids, they would all have healthy shoulders by now. In the same stretch, if you would have bought a home pull-up bar and you could not do pull-ups in April, if you would have followed the step-by-step guide that we give you in the certification, you could have had all your kids doing multiple pull-ups by today. So again, you can still improve whether you're in the water or not. It's taking advantage of the situation. And yeah, I'm not gonna be surprised if multiple world records are broken in the next year, because swimmers were able to have a little bit more dryland time, and it really does magnify what you're doing in the pool.
You're about to head into the curriculum?
Yes.
Okay, before we go there, I just wanted to, Jason's been a college coach for a long time. What are your takeaways, when you went through the curriculum, Jason?
Yeah, I think too. And funny, one of these questions was actually, what's so different from most college programs? I'm assuming that's about the SSDC. And I can, as a 20-year college coach, I can answer that. I think the first is, for a lot of us, we don't have the official certification or education background that Chris has. Like, I learned a lot of what I think I'm above average with Dryland. I learned a lot of, he's laughing, because I learned a lot of that from visiting him, or literally on training trip.
Well, and Jason too, at the last stop that you were at, you actually had a really good strength coach for the level. And that's actually like a really beneficial thing that not a lot of coaches have. Like, he actually was interested. I remember, years ago, and when you took a training trip actually down here to have the kids train in person, I remember you were kind of letting me know what your guy was doing. I was like, oh, that's really good. Like, so you actually had a pretty good situation at your last stop. And that's not every college coach's situation.
Yeah, we had a CSCS for a Division III team, which doesn't normally happen. I mean, that's part of why I went there. So I think there's a couple of big differences. First of all, for me, what's helped here is, like, I've never had an official certification or an official background. So I knew I had expertise just from going to Ritter and training my team there and asking them questions. But I don't have anything on my resume, or if a parent asks, like, what's your qualification to do this? Even as a 20-year coach, I don't have anything on paper I can give them. Hey, I'm not going to ruin your kid's shoulder. And for me, the biggest takeaway that when if I ever get on deck again, is the assessments. That's a game changer. Like, we can all tell looking at a kid if they don't have proper flexibility or can't do a catch, or I see it the biggest with boys in butterfly. They just do not have that thoracic extension and cannot do the catch. And no matter how much you train them and drill them, they can't press. They can't press because they're too tight up here. So the idea of having an actual score for your assessments, for your strength, and probably bigger for your movement assessments, you're anywhere. Hopefully a kid is not all zeros on the movement assessments. They're probably like in a body cast if they're all, but you're
And
giving.
zeros indicate pain if you guys aren't in the thick. So you get a 0 if there's pain.
So it's 0, 1 for limited mobility, 2 for full mobility for 7 different things. So a full score of 28 means you're completely mobile. Am I getting the numbers right?
Yeah, I think so off the top of my head. I got to double check my sheet, Jason.
Is you don't have full mobility in anything. So if you think about he showed the page, but I literally like have it right here.
Yeah.
If you give each kid an assessment sheet and a number, and the kid, the athlete knows their mobility number, 16, 18, 20. The coach knows the mobility number, the assistant coach, the strength coach. What an easy way to communicate, hey, Jennifer, what's your mobility number on your test? 18. Oh, let me see. What do we need to work on? And just to be able to have that communication, I would implement that immediately. That would be day one for a college team. So I hope I answered that. As a 20-year coach, I've never even had a formal number for assessment, and even my strength coaches didn't. And I'm just thinking back to having to be able to communicate with the strength coach who had them in the morning and say, hey, Joey's mobility number is only a 16, so we need to address that in the program. That's a game changer to me.
All right. Chris, before you take us inside the curriculum, I just out of curiosity, when Jason brought up something about mobility and butterfly, and this is something that we always witnessed. Is it if you see an athlete and you're trying to attack this one area, but what's one thing that you do?
Oh, for shoulder mobility in particular and thoracic?
Yes.
Yeah, so I go back to, again, that webinar we did the first week of April, Mel. It doesn't require any equipment, but one of them is, and I can almost do it standing, but if you get beside a wall in a kneeling position, and if you just take your inner arm and go circle back and forth, and a lot of people are not going to be able to even get close to the wall. They're going to have to need a yoga block or something to get a few inches out, and you just find where you're at, and you let your body figure it out. You're not jamming it in and forcing it. So it goes to the two rules we have for stretching is breathing and smiling. If you are not breathing and you are not smiling, your stretching is wrong. So you need to be doing that, because when you're stretching, you're essentially trying to tell the nervous system, it's okay, relax, release a little bit. And so if you're not smiling and you're not breathing, your nervous system is just tensed up. So yeah, you may, do whatever stretch you think for a few seconds, but you've literally just wasted time or even dampened down what the body should be going into training. So those are our two rules for stretching: breathing and smiling.
Mobility, and it's, mobility is the first thing that goes.
Mm-hmm.
Time off and in retirement. Take us through the curriculum.
Yeah, so what you guys are going to do, if you haven't already visited our new site, which we're really excited about. When I first started thinking about the certification, I knew it was going to be so big. We'd had another website for years. It was great. We posted lots of events and other coaching education from it. But I wanted to start from the ground level so that we could do a lot more stuff in the back end. So if you go down here, if you haven't already, in the Academy section, this is where the certification lives. So even if you don't end up getting certified, you can still enroll for free and take Dryland 101 courses that are pulled straight from the certification. So maybe today, if you're not ready to jump in, that's fine. No worries. Still go and register for free. Check out the classes. So when you click on the certification, you'll get more info on this page. And we break it down in terms of what you're going to learn, why it matters to actually be certified. Because again, this is the first Dryland certification. And some coaches aren't necessarily well-versed in certifications. Coming from the personal training, strength training world, I understand very much, A, why they're important, and two, the differences in them. So now we have in swimming, this is the only one. This is the first one. Why does it matter? And here's who should get certified. Not only swim coaches, but master swimmers. If you're trying to self-coach yourself, why not figure out how to actually create the program for yourself? We've coached master swimmers for years now. Some we've been coaching for 10 plus years. And I love that group in particular because they're always so curious about why are we doing this? How can I do it better? And making sure they fit it to them and their custom schedule. Some are only swimming 3 or 2 days a week. And how does strength training fit into that? So, or if you're a strength and conditioning coach and you're trying to figure out how to talk more swimming and speak the swimming language to the swim coach, this is going to help you too. I'm sure a lot of you that are on today are more the swim coach vein, but I wanted to kind of meet in the middle in terms of helping swim coaches understand the science and the strength training that I knew, and then helping strength coaches understand swimming more and meeting in the middle with this certification. So I think we've done a really great job of that. It breaks down the curriculum here. We basically have 2 sections, it's foundations and applications. So in the foundations, almost think about it as you're getting a fast track in a bachelor's of science and exercise science and kinesiology. We break down why Dryland matters in the first module, and then we go all into all the different exercises, movements. We break it down into categories, so that reverts to the assessment then. So after you do the assessment, you understand, okay, what categories should my athletes be doing? Talk about the principles of strength and conditioning, periodization, and then in the application side, now we're actually going to put that to work. So how does the assessment and testing tie into it? How does sitting down and actually creating your first Dryland program from season plan, weekly plan, session plan? And then the big one, everybody's asking, how do I make this specific? This is by far the biggest module. It almost broke me. It took so long to do. I went so in depth. I've not pulled out so many case studies and different lessons in this module. And then we even have a module all about equipment, because I know, especially with club coaches, there's a wide variety of what equipment you may or may not have. And that's going to dictate how you're able to do your programming. So we talk about, if you have a limited budget, what's the first level of equipment you should buy, all the way up to, if you have everything, how should you work through that? And then if you don't have equipment, how is that going to alter your program? And so that's a big variable, especially at the club program. And then here's some of the outcomes. You're going to understand and be able to implement a better Dryland program and truly unlock the potential for your swimmers. And then we have some FAQs here. So then you can enroll just yourself here or multiple coaches. We do offer a discount for teams, and teams are signing up around the world. So this is the backside of it. So we're actually in the academy now. So if you just registered for free, this is the view you'd see. This is all the courses right now. So we got about, I think, 5 one-on-one courses right now. So for free, guys, you can register and we will walk you exactly through what I said, where if you started 6 months ago, your swimmers would all be doing pull-ups if you just went through this Dryland 101 on the building the pull-up. Core training, what's the absolute most important core exercise that you should be doing with your swimmers? Why? How? We have a whole Dryland 101 on that. The best lower body exercise, the best upper body, how to actually write a workout. These are all free courses you could be taking, but we're going to dive into the certification right here. And so on the backside of the certification, it has 188 lessons. I know that may sound like a lot. It's about 22 hours of content, but each lesson is about 6 minutes. So if you think, can I just do a few lessons a day? You could do it in 45 minutes a day. You'd be done in a month. This is all self-paced. Or if you're really aggressive, you want to knock it out over a weekend, you're going to be able to do that too. It's not too big to tackle. And so you can see here about how long each module is going to take as you go through it here in the first section, and then the second section. And then we have the final exam where if you pass, you will automatically get your certification and be able to put SSDC behind your name. So I'll actually show you the backside of it here. And so you have the videos, all of it is video based. And again, you can go at your own pace. What we also do, so here's just some of the lessons on the first module, Dryland overview. So building the swimmer's body. So I talk about this for 6-10 minutes and break that down more for you and how that looks in your Dryland. You'll also get copies of the slides and any other materials that we have. So I talked about the templates and all the stuff that we put together when you're actually planning. You get all of that and you retain access to this too after you are done as well. And here's a really cool thing. So in every module, and if you've been a member of the Hive or in some past stuff we've done, you'll recognize this tool. But what we're able to do is if you go in, and so this is the first module, we have this for every module, and you say, all right, Chris, I really didn't understand how to get my athletes strong. Type in the word strong. 14 times I said strong in the first module. It takes you right to the second that I spoke that, in every lesson in the first module. So now what we have is at the end of each module, we do a little knowledge check just to help you understand, am I actually retaining this knowledge? And those questions are the exact questions that are going to be on the exam. So I recommend you're able to pass it at 90 or 100%. Anything below, you'll know what question you got wrong. You can come back and you can search through and say, okay, maybe I wasn't understanding strength or athleticism or the definitions of any of these. And now you can scroll through and play that lesson again and play it right at the second where I pick up talking about that. So you talk about efficiency, being able to save time, and it's always going to be here for you to review and come back whenever you want. So we have this search and review at every module, so for you to continue to use it as you're going through. So that's all the behind the scenes. Let me check my slides here to make sure that I had so much notes for you guys. I want to make sure I got it all. Mel, Jason, you guys got any questions? Do we have any questions so far?
I got a few when you're ready.
Okay. I'm just checking my slide here to make sure I got all the notes. So yeah, it's self-paced, guys, and you take the final exam. You'll be able to be certified with that as well. So yeah, Jason, we can go with the questions now.
The first one's pretty easy. Why the name Surge? Why is the training called Surge?
So that was actually the very first thing I ever created. I think it was probably in 2011 or 2012, is this little ebook back when like I had to research, like, how do you have hyperlinks in ebooks? And so it's crazy to think how much stuff has changed since then. But I just really liked the name Surge in terms of that's what I want my swimmers to do when they're going through the water, to be able to be surging through it and to tie the strength in, and that's really a cornerstone of what Dryland programs should be. And so Surge Strength began way long ago, and we've been able to keep it going since.
The next one is from Tom G. And Tom, you can type in if I don't explain this well. What is so different from your training from most college programs? Meaning, what's the difference between Surge Strength from a program like Indiana that would have their own strength trainer?
Yeah, so it really depends on, you think of every coach, right? It's the same thing. You could say, how is, what Ray Luz is doing in Indiana different from Greg Troy down in Florida? There's nuances between that. And at the end of the day, good coaches make athletes better, stronger, and they make their swimmers faster. So I can't speak to that particular one because I frankly don't know what that coach is doing. But what we are doing is giving you the foundations. And a lot of swim coaches have no idea what some of these foundations are, right? So I talked about the landmarks of being able to be strong and athletic. A lot of coaches probably couldn't tell you what their top goals are in Dryland that succinctly, or how do they do that for their whole team from ages 8 to 18 or beyond. So we do get very much into the details, but we also keep it simple and more provide you a system to understand this is the best approach if you want your swimmers to be faster, what you should be doing on land.
All right, this one's a good one, because I bet a lot of us have this. Kind of a general philosophical question. What reassurances can we give kids and parents about the health and safety of strength training? My impression that it is still controversial to begin strength training programs for kids that are too young. So what do you do to parents that are worried that you have young kids lifting weights?
Yeah, well, one, you get certified because that shows you're a professional and you're actually taking it seriously. And one of the benefits down at the bottom here that we're going to get to is when you become certified, you can go out and get very affordable individual professional liability insurance. The same insurance I had to carry when I was a personal trainer and strength coach, going around to different places, training people. I had to carry this just in case, something happened. But even just that level to make it a little bit more professional. I hear coaches all the time talk about continuing education and trying to raise the level of the profession. This is one of the ways to actually be able to go out and get your own liability insurance outside of what the club or college or whatever offers. And that in and of itself, I think, is going to help a lot of parents because you need to jump through some hoops to get that. And getting certified is going to open that door up for you. I think the fear of that comes from people getting injured or people not knowing what they're doing. And we teach you, A, how to avoid injuries. How can you actually build swimmers up so they are stronger and not going to get injured? Because that's actually something people don't understand is weaker athletes are actually much more likely to get injured. The stronger you are, as long as we're doing it in a holistic, adding the mobility part, it's very hard to get injured the stronger and more mobile you are. And so something like overhead presses, a lot of coaches, oh, I don't want to do anything overhead. That's actually making the shoulders weaker. Now in a vacuum, if their mobility is really poor, we teach you how to scale that down and what to work on to improve the mobility. But actually, if every swimmer was able to do overhead presses well above their head and have good mobility, they're never going to have shoulder problems in the water. So I think it's just continuing to educate parents, but also coaches taking it serious enough that they want to do something like this and become certified and be able to say to the parents, yeah, I actually went and did this course outside and now I have liability insurance as well that I was able to go get from that. I think that's a big step in helping parents' fears.
That's one of the
Those are
benefits
good.
of being Surge Strength certified, but it's just, so I've got my credentials and yeah, you know, and I can pick up my insurance. What are some, when the rubber meets the road, what are some other benefits?
I think just the understanding that you're going to have, and we're seeing it with the coaches coming through already, of knowing, okay, maybe I kind of knew about Dryland before, but now I really can almost say I have a system. And whether you're a club coach or a college coach or you're a self-coach masters, I don't think a lot of coaches, even if they feel they have a pretty good Dryland program, Jason, like you were saying, you couldn't say system. I can't say, hey, swimmer A, you need to work on this particular thing. And here's the roadmap of how we're going to get that better. You, because you've been coaching for so long, you probably have a good coach's eye. Like you said, you could say, yeah, I know that kid needs to work on its shoulders, but I don't know how. Like, where do we start? How do we know when we've gotten there? And so we're providing you that roadmap, the grid to think through with all of the Dryland issues that you may come up with, whether it be equipment, different level of kids, you know, we have a taper meet for these guys, but we don't for these. How do you adjust Dryland? We only have Dryland after practice. How do I handle stuff like that? So basically any question you've ever had about Dryland, we go through that in some level and give you tons of examples from college, senior, master's, age group level of what that actually looks like. So frankly, if you're really lazy, like you can just copy some of these programs that we give you. And I give you multiple years worth of programs just in the certification. But the hope is that we inspire you to really dig into this and you're able to take this base of knowledge and then go apply it to your unique situation, whatever that looks like.
I have a dumb question. It's something I always worry about coaches, and then they dedicate their lives to sport, and then I see how much they work. I see them missing dinners. I see them missing weekends with their family. But it's so I'm certified. Is this what does this do for my resume? What does this do for me moving in the marketplace and creating a career?
Yeah, I think it's actually huge because, especially Jason, you could speak to this in the college setting, but almost every assistant coach, especially if it's just two coaches, the assistant coach is almost by default the one in charge of Dryland, right? And so that in of itself, I'm sure you're going to raise yourself to the high point of resumes there in the stack. If Jason, you're next head coach and you're looking for an assistant coach to run Dryland, am I going to pick someone that has credentials behind their name or someone that just says, yeah, I know Dryland pretty well. Like I've had some success.
My my last assistant who is CSCS certified is actually in this chat.
Yeah. And that's level two. And we talk about CSCS. So that's the gold standard, guys, for strength and conditioning. It has been for many years. And we'll talk about this a little bit more with the reviews, but we have people currently in and are testing out that have their CSCS, that have their master's in exercise science. And they're saying this course was unbelievable in what they learned. So let that sink in for a little bit. Not only is it just good for swim coaches, but if you're a professional in the strength and conditioning field, this is going to help you that much more in swimming specifically, knowing how to work with swimmers and getting them better results.
We got a few more questions if you're ready.
Yeah, let's just do one or two more, and then we're going to have some coaches come on that are joining us live that are going through the certification, going to give us a little insight to there. But yeah, Jason, let's do one or two.
Does the program address use of equipment and training in different facilities? I know not every swim program will have access to certain equipment or may not have access to the same facilities as a larger program.
Absolutely. And that's why I purposely made a whole module dedicated to that. Because I actually did it when I was starting to lay it out. And the more I thought about it, especially at Ritter, we work with teams all over the world. And that is the biggest thing when we're doing our online surge strength programming for them is knowing what equipment do you have. And so the more I thought about it, I felt like I just needed to do a whole module dedicated to equipment, and not just like, get this brand over that brand, not little stuff like that, but more, if you have no equipment, how does that affect your program? And just so and can hopefully see the advantage of, well, if I just saved this much and got the first level of equipment that Chris is recommending, maybe that helps coaches, because I think they get overwhelmed with thinking, all right, I don't have money for equipment. I can't even spare $200 because I wouldn't know what I'm going to buy. Well, I can show you with $200, we can actually get some good stuff, and that allows you to expand your Dryland program. But if you don't know where to start, I feel coaches just get overwhelmed and say, all right, well, there's nothing in the budget for that. There's something in the budget for Dryland, and thinking about how much this can unlock the potential, there should be at least something in the budget for Dryland. Jason, you want to do the one more real fast, then we'll get some coaches on? Eric, I'm coming for you first.
I think the last question we have, how do you prioritize when you have limited time? Let's say you have 1 hour a week to dedicate to Dryland, or what's the difference if you have 1 hour or say 3 hours?
Yeah, so we actually talk about that a lot in terms of going back to the slide with the Energizer Bunny. You can be under no illusion that your swimmers have a limited amount of energy. There's actually very limited amount by the time Dryland rolls around, especially if Dryland is post swimming. So we talk through how many times should you have Dryland a week. I say optimally, if I can have 3 Dryland sessions, that's great. 2, it's okay. You're going to maintain. Don't expect very much. If you can get 4, that's great, but it's probably not needed. So if I can get 3 30-minute, even 40-minute, even an hour session, that'd be great. And then the other part too, where you can sneak Dryland in, is before the swimming. So if we're getting in, especially in a morning session, 15 minutes of Dryland, we walk through what that should look like. And that stuff adds up, and it makes your water time more efficient. You're going to need less water time. As soon as the athletes are in, 1-2 minutes in, they're going to be able to swim fast. So yeah, we go through all of that. And those are the type of questions that coaches are going to feel like they really understand how they can do the best by their swimmers in their program. So it's great that coach is already asking that question. That tells me they're thinking about it, but he doesn't know where to go. And we lay out all that stuff there in the certification. So yeah. All right, Eric, we're going to try to promote you here so we can get video on. And then James, I'm coming for you next.
I think we're okay, right?
Yeah. Hey, Eric.
Hello there.
So Eric is currently, Eric, have you passed the exam yet? Where are you at in the curriculum?
I am getting ready to take it. I've completed all the course requirements. This weekend's my next break, I guess.
That's awesome.
Time to try.
And you're a club coach where, Eric?
I am. I'm the head coach for the Shaker Sharks, which is an age group program in Shaker Heights, Ohio, which is right outside of Cleveland. And I'm also the head high school coach for Shaker Heights High School.
Awesome. So what are your impressions of going through the Surge Strength Dryland certification?
The way that it's laid out is outstanding. I've got a staff of 7 coaches. We've got, I believe, 3 others involved in getting the certification coming. And as somebody I think brought up earlier about, what do you do for younger kids, or what do you do for 11 to 14-year-olds, or what do you do for your high school programs? It's all laid out in there, and it addresses all the common questions and all the situations that have come across over the years in a very systematic and fundamental way. And
Eric, I want to toot your own horn that you epitomize a coach continuing to learn. You've been basically getting every resource we've given out for years now. So I think that in of itself is very cool to hear from you how much you're enjoying it, because it's not like this is the first time you've heard a lot of this stuff or seen some of this stuff, because you've been with us for years now. So you want to say anything to that too about just the totality of what you're learning, even though you've been around and you've listened to the podcast for forever?
Yeah, we have done we've done just about everything you've offered, and as a result, so we've done the program where we had one of your staff come out and tell the program and give the program to us. While you were doing that, I was doing your initial Surge Strength course online as well, and reading the book and doing those kind of things. And now to have this as a certification course, I think is excellent. And so the team again, they're fundamental exercises, and the charts that you lay out within the course are very helpful in kind of like was said earlier, like give the kids a number. All right, you're at 16. Here you go. And this is why you're in level 2, because you need to improve this kind of flexibility. You need to improve this level of mobility in order to be able to get onto the next one, because mostly, again, my main focus is high school kids, and they all just want to be up, but so-and-so over there is doing this. How come I can't do that? And, everybody wants to be the same until somebody, needs to be at a higher level. And so that's our challenge, trying to help them understand why the progression is there, and being able to have specific assessments and specific numeric numbers assigned to that has really been beneficial.
Oh, that's awesome. Eric, thanks for hopping on real fast and sharing your experience. Good luck on the exam there.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
All right, John, I'm going to come for you next here. I'm impressed, guys. This is the first time we've switched back and forth this many people on and off the panel, so it's going good so far. Although John, I think there's John. John, you there? I think it switched over.
He's muted.
John, I'm trying to unmute you.
He's
Are you there?
Just went back on. There, it's off.
Yeah, I've been having some technical difficulties. Can you
No
guys see
worries.
me? Everything's good?
No, we can hear you. We can't see you, but no worries, John. Go ahead and tell people what your experience has been so far.
All right, so I recently passed the exam last Sunday. And
Awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you. And I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina. Work mostly in Huntersville with Sailfish Swim Academy, Mecklenburg Swim Association, and I'm presently over at Nomad, so I'm working with their newly branded Evolutionary Athletics swim team right now.
So basically, any swimming up north, you're probably working with. That's awesome.
I have been involved for the last 2 years or so. There I am.
There you are.
All right. And I found this is an awesome certification to have. It's highly recommended to both swim coaches and strength and conditioning professionals. I'm out of that aspect. I'm mostly a strength and conditioning professional. I found that it's a very direct and succinct way to provide productive and responsible and accountable programming, both coaches and professionals, by combining both swim anatomy and principles of strength and conditioning. And it's very direct and easy to understand.
That's awesome. And John, I want to go just one more question on that. So like you said, you're coming more from the strength and conditioning background, the personal training. What did you take away from the certification? Again, you're knowing probably a lot of this stuff coming in and worked with a lot of swimmers. So it's not like you're green with working on swimmers either. I'm curious on that level, what surprised you or what did you enjoy about it?
Well, one of the things is I started officially about 2 years ago with this, and I was looking elsewhere online. I was approached by family members of the highest level swimmers of swimming Sailfish, and they wanted me to help them train their kids. So I had to basically look and reference and see if there's anything else available. I heard about Ritter Sports Performance and saw what you had available, but I didn't really jump in. So I basically put together my own program and carried that out, and was successful. But when I actually signed up for yours, everything was very much similar in alignment in terms of functional training, in terms of being injury preventative, making sure that swimmers had very strong core, they're highly mobile, just strong. And I love that aspect of it. I didn't have too much of a background in swimming, but it did provide that way of sort of understanding a lot of where the coaches were coming from. And is to really communicate with the coaches, get on the same page in terms of making progress. So.
That's awesome. That's awesome. What would you tell to swim coaches out there that are maybe thinking about joining and enrolling?
Oh, definitely. I mean, this has definitely made things a lot easier. You can jump down the rabbit hole trying to put together your own strength training programs. And this gives you go-tos to look at, exercises to focus on, assessments to focus on, ways to basically, format your entire season in a very simple, easy way.
That's awesome. And that's come from a professional. We even helped you. That's awesome. John, thanks for hopping on real fast. Sarah,
Thank you.
coming for you. And this will be the last one we'll have join us, guys. Hey, Sarah.
Hi.
How's it going?
Good.
What was your
Sorry if
experience?
my kid's running.
Oh, no worries. Like everybody, right?
Yeah. My experience was I really enjoyed it. I thought it was very helpful. This is going to sound absolutely insane, but I chased after getting my CSCS just for information on how to strength train my swimmers, and I still left kind of empty, like I still don't know what to do. Like, great, I have all of this. What do I do with it? So I really, really enjoyed this program on how to actually apply it to the swim world specifically, because that's exactly what I was looking for. And I found that I was doing a lot of things wrong, and it was very helpful.
So Sarah, is your background more in swim coaching or strength and conditioning?
Swim coaching for
Okay.
sure.
So as a swim coach, awesome. Kudos to you for going out and trying to get your CSCS. I hear a lot of coaches do that. What was the difference in how you know, that's a lot of work to go through that too and learn all that and get the exam. And can you just describe for me the difference a little bit more of where you, sounds like you were feeling empty a little bit more with the CSCS and what you found that you liked going through the Surge Strength Dryland certification?
Right. So the application of the cycles, now the word is escaping me, but the kind of the periodization of the phases, right?
Yeah.
And so applying that to swim, because you know they touched on it with CSCS, but I still was like, I don't know how this relates to the swim pool. And then we are very limited on equipment. So just making that connection on what we really absolutely need to have, which we're in the process of making that change, even though with all the COVID going on, we're still having to make some modifications, but definitely the changing the hinge and the pull ratios, because that was a huge factor when we don't have a whole lot of equipment. And I was really focusing on how do we make the kid or mimic everything in the water. And that was exactly what not exactly, but we really shouldn't be doing that very much. So really making that change to balancing all of our athletes out and starting with the basics and not giving up, because sometimes I think things look terrible and I bail, and I shouldn't do that.
What did you learn with that in particular? Because I think you're not alone with that, with coaches.
Especially with the hinge motions, you know, a lot of the kids, no matter what, I'm dealing with all the age groups right now. I would just think that, oh my gosh, this looks so bad. I can't get them to do it right. I need to just stop and do something that they can do correctly. And that was wrong, because it was one, just going back to the regular squat movement, which was not a good idea. And I just made that switch to, I'm not going to give up, even though this looks awful. We're just going to keep doing it. And one day it's just going to click. So we're not quite there yet, but we're still doing it. So
awesome. What would you tell other coaches out there that are hearing about the certification for the first time, or maybe they've been thinking about it? What would you tell them, or why would you encourage them to go and follow your footsteps?
I would encourage every swim coach who is trying to implement a Dryland program to do this, because I felt like it gave you along every step of the way, it gave you how to apply it directly to swimmers. And I think that in my research is lacking the direct application to swimming. And like the CSCS, I was like, great, I can get a football player to squat this much and all this sort of stuff, but that's not helpful in the pool. So this was the first time I've ever actually looked at something and said, this is directly related to my sport and I need to do this. So that would be why I would encourage it.
Sarah, thanks so much for hopping on and telling us about your experience. Appreciate it.
No problem.
Let us know how your swimmers do with the hinge too. I'll be checking in on you.
Will do.
Chris, are we wrapping up? Do you have some bonuses?
Yes, I do, Mel. I'm about to share my.
Just share those before you tell us where to go to enroll. So
real fast, guys, just a few more testimonials real fast, what we're seeing, and you've already heard a lot of it. Just the most comprehensive you're going to have people with CSCS, like Sarah was just saying, she has her CSCS. And that's awesome that that was the only thing for so long swim coaches can kind of go for. And this is going to replace it because this is actually going to give you what you're looking for. So people, even with that level, cannot recommend it enough highly. And here actually people reviews from inside that have passed and now have earned SSDC behind their names. So this coach in particular, Alex, he's out in Australia. And I just had a phone call with him where he feels after this now, he can look at his entire program and put together, all right, this is what my 8 and unders are doing, my age groupers, all the way up to senior kids, and how confident he feels. And it wasn't like before he didn't know what he was doing. It's just now he feels much more secure about the roadmap. So you guys want to make sure you go to surge-strength.com to enroll. Even at the very least, just go into the academy, check out the 101s. That's going to give you a taste of just what you're going to get from the Surge Strength Dryland certification. But yes, surge-strength.com is where you want to go.